YouTube Freak 976 here with the old truth. I am making two videos. My first one I'm making is Trayvon Martin. Now, I did one video about this, but I decided not to do a whole lot of others on it. I did mention Glenn Beck, but really I only do something if I feel necessary to talk about it. And this case has gotten a lot of attention. Some people think too much. Maybe it has, but it has spotlighted the fact that we really haven't moved forward that much when it comes to racism. And we're like, well, why deal with this? Because you know why? We need to. We need to move forward. I don't see why we haven't been able to. This is a divided country. When we call ourselves the United States of America, it's a catchphrase. Because instead of every single person in this country, except for a few whack jobs, being like, what happened to Trayvon Martin was a travesty, and my video is a perfect example of the bullshit that still goes on. I did not expect the video to do that well. I didn't. It did. But you know what? I actually would have preferred it just not do that well, for the simple fact of all the ignorant, evil, despicable comments I got in that video. But not about me, about Trayvon Martin. I can handle the comments about me. I don't care. A troll comes to my video and they say, oh, you're ugly, you're stupid. I just mock them and move on. When they come to my video and they say things like, who cares? He was a thug. Let him die. I get almost downright depressed because it reminds me of the evil ugliness that we still deal with. Now, this is from the Christian Science Monitor, MSNBC.com. What is it about? The Trayvon Martin case is dividing the country racially, generationally, politically, and by economic stature. That's the finding in the of a public opinion poll taken by the February 26th killing of a black teenager and neighborhood watch volunteer George Zimmerman in Sanford, Florida. How Americans perceive this case is divided on several variables, says Trayvon Martin, president of the Technometrica Market Intelligence, which conducted a recent Christian Science Monitor TIPP poll. Similar patterns emerge when asked if blacks should be concerned about racial profiling in preeminently white areas. For example, twice as many blacks and Hispanics as whites say race played a major role in the shooting of Trayvon Martin. 73% of blacks and Hispanics to 36% of whites. The Monitor TIPP poll of 906 adults taken from March 30th to April 5th finds other disparities as well. Younger respondents are more likely to see race playing a major role in the case of those than those who are middle aged, 66% to 43%. Women more so than men. 48% think that race of women, only 39% of men think that race had played in it. Those of modest income more than the wealthy, 51% of middle income to 37%. Democrats, much more so than Republicans, 64% of Democrats, 32% of Republicans. Asked in this survey to what extent should blacks be concerned about racial profiling by police or law enforcement in predominantly white areas, 69% say to great or some extent. Here too, younger respondents, women, blacks, Hispanics, and Democrats are more likely to see racial profiling as a problem. In a recent USA Today Gallup poll finds similar results. Given what we know about the case, for example, blacks are twice as likely than non-blacks, 72 to 32%, to believe that Mr. Zimmerman, who is white and Hispanic, is guilty of a crime in shooting Trayvon, according to an April 2nd to 4th Gallup survey of 3,006 Americans. In police calls, Zimmerman mentioned race only when asked. Blacks are paying much closer attention to the news of the incident, overwhelmingly believe that George Zimmerman is guilty of a crime, believe that racial bias was a major factor in the events leading up to the shooting, and believe that Zimmerman, who already had been arrested, had the victim been white, not black, wrote Gallup editor-in-chief Frank Newport in the analysis of the finding. The Pew Research finds similar results and political differences in the extent to which Americans are paying attention to the unfolding story. blacks and Democrats are much more likely to be following the story than whites and Republicans. Q finds, and white and Republicans are much more likely to say there's been too much coverage of Trayvon's death. Some major corporations apparently are paying close attention to the Trayvon story as well. On Thursday, Kraft Foods Inc. joined Coca-Cola and PepsiCo in pulling its membership from the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC. The ALEC is a conservative nonprofit policy organization whose major funders include billionaire industrialists Charles and David Koch. It's been associated with laws like Florida's Stand Your Ground law, allowing citizens to use deadly force rather than retreat in the face of potentially life-threatening encounter, as well as with efforts to restrict voter registration, neither of which has much to do with the organization stated pro-business agenda. Gallup's Mr. Newport finds similarities between the Trayvon Martin case and that of O.J. Simpson in Los Angeles in 1995. The situation in Trayvon Martin case is different from the Simpson situation. However, because the victim, rather than the privileged perpetrator, is black, writes Newport, still both situations, even the 17 years apart, apparently tap into some deeply felt views of the average black American that the criminal justice system in America is biased to blacks. You know, that actually brings up a good point, because I always hear racist, or even just the people who are just discussing, they're like, well, why are more African Americans in jail? Did you ever stop to what about the numbers that, did you ever stop to think about the numbers that count? Do they count the people who get arrested, they just get arrested just because they look suspicious? Do they count that? I'm going to see if I can find a link. If I can't, if somebody else has a link, please send it to me and I will put it up. Because I have been trying to find those, it's pretty hard to find, but still, I have heard people in magazines and newspapers like The Nation, them say that they don't, I wish they would give more links and stuff, that they don't count, in a lot of these, that they don't talk about that African Americans who get stopped just for looking suspicious. Because they wear a hoodie, And that is a good point. How many whites would be calling for the head of Zimmerman had he been a black man? Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin, who would have been a white kid. That, at the end of the day, is the bottom line. A man shot a kid, a 17-year-old one. Now, I do want to say this. Does it do the case of Trayvon Martin any justice when MSNBC cuts out part of the tape of Zimmerman that makes Zimmerman look more racist? I mean, I'm not doubting that Zimmerman was racist, because you did hear him yell effing, pardon my language, to Trayvon Martin. He said, get back, something like, get back here, you effing coon, pardon my language again, but still, that's what he yelled. That right there proved that he was racist. But don't cut out the part where he said he looks suspicious. I think he's a black kid, that's what he told the police. They cut out he looks suspicious, they cut out a few lines in that. That right there is not good journalism, MSNBC or NBC. It's not. Don't cut out anything. That still doesn't change the fact that Trayvon Martin was shot by a guy who thought he was a police officer, basically. George Zimmerman's head had no scars on it when he said that he was being brutally beaten by Trayvon Martin. I don't give a damn how far medicine and stuff has come. We're not at Star Trek yet where we can zap somebody with a laser and the scars start to disappear. We're not that advanced. He had no black eyes, nothing on him to even give the idea that he was being beat up by this kid. Some people accuse the media of showing pictures of when he was 12 or 13 years old. Does that still change the fact that he was shot? No. But should the family be showing a more recent picture? I don't see what the harm would be. And everybody's like, well, what if he looked more, gangster or whatever? Who cares? Who cares what he looks like? He was a kid, and he was shot by a loon. A racist loon. So, that doesn't do Trayvon Martin any justice. Show a more recent picture. But I know what it is, they want sympathy for the kid. Because I know why they do this. They want sympathy for him because they know if they were to show him, let's just say, I'm not saying he was, but I'm just saying, let's just say he was more of a ghetto-looking kid. How much sympathy, because he does get a lot of sympathy, believe it or not, even from whites. Not as much as he should, but still, He does get a lot. How would it affect their perception if they saw this kid and he looked a little more rough around the edges? Or show an earlier picture of him where he looked really sweet and innocent? We gotta drop our perception, because who cares what he looked like? I wouldn't have cared if he had spiked hair with piercings and tattoos and everything. The fact is, he was shot by a lunatic. A guy who had been arrested, Zimmerman. A guy who had called called the police as a neighborhood watchman 50 different times about suspicious behavior and stuff. And he was even told to quit doing that. That doesn't change it, what the kid looked like. Who cares? This is the problem with us. We judge people more on how they look than their character. We judge people more based on whether they're like us or not than whether they do the right thing. Why? Why is that? Is there a deep-seated fear inside everybody that comes out, because we're different, so if we see something that is different, that we automatically curl up into a ball and want to go, no, I don't want you near me. That's basically at the heart of racism, because it shows that you can't handle something that doesn't look like you, doesn't think like you, doesn't act like you. Pathetic. You don't have to, I have friends on different websites, and who I know personally. I know a girl, a really good friend of mine. She has piercings. She has tattoos. I don't care. Only thing I care about is what people, it's your actions, not what you look like. That's how we should think. So that way we can get away from this crap and focus more on stuff like people with disabilities, improving the economy. The Trayvon Martin case is actually a brilliant plan for the media. And like I said, everybody's like, well, you're covering it. Yes, I am. Because, you know what, I think this actually does need to be talked about, is that we need to move past race. If there's a black guy walking down the street, he's not going to hurt you. That doesn't mean he's going to, that doesn't mean he's going to hurt you. Now, if he's a black guy walking down the street with a knife and he pulls it on you, then he might hurt you. But what if that person was white? What if you saw a black guy and a white guy walking? Hear me out. And the black guy's walking towards you, and you start going like this. But the reason he's walking towards you is because he sees the white guy behind you with a knife. Would you say, get away from me, blackie? Or would you say, thank you? Something to think about. This is a bullshit case. A lot of people are asking me from overseas, why in the hell isn't Zimmerman in jail? I don't. What am I supposed to tell them? That we have racist, bigoted cops who just don't give a damn about a ghetto kid, where he actually didn't live in the ghetto? Stop. It does not matter what you look like. It does not matter how much you earn. It does not matter where you grew up. What matters is your actions. And until I see actual proof that Trayvon Martin was really trying to harm him, trying to kill George Zimmerman, until I see actual evidence, I don't believe a damn word that you racists tell me. You're apologizing for a killer. And a lot of you, not all, but a lot of you are so-called Christians. You're not Christians. If you were, you would be outraged. Thou shalt not kill. One of the 10 Commandments. But instead, you're making excuses. You're making excuses. Why? I've got it. I've got it. I can solve this whole thing for you whites who are still holding out that Zimmerman, that race didn't have anything to do with this, and that he shouldn't be behind bars. Imagine Trayvon Martin was white. And that, sadly, is the truth.